Okay, so my Bestem Willen. So this is kind of a special track, kind of my first single in a while. I actually got kind of the bass idea of this chord progression from my buddy Mike, who I play with a lot, and he had this idea of kind of taking existing songs and flipping the chord progression around to create a new chord progression. So he's done that with his songs, and I ended up doing this for my Bestem Willen. And my first time trying that, when he told me that idea, I kind of just originally was like, wow, okay, that's really interesting. So from there, I kind of tried it. So I took my song Optimist Avenue, and I kind of sifted the chords around a little bit, played around with them. I just used that chord progression, and then I added it or replaced a chord or whatever, but I just kind of used that chord progression to create my Bestem Willen. And I would not have even thought of that if it weren't for Mike. So Mike kind of takes the credit for starting the idea of the chord progression for the song. So I had the chord progression from that process, and I instantly fell in love with it. And yeah, I always wanted to write a song in German. German is technically my first language. My first sentence was in German, and Germany is kind of my second home. But I never really have written much in German in the past. It's kind of now that I'm slowly starting to do that, just with ideas. And my Bestem Willen is the first full-length song that I've ever written in German, which is super special. And it was really interesting because of that, writing a song in German, because I kind of just got to challenge myself and see, okay, how well do I really know German? Because you can know a language as much as you think you do, and then when you start to write down or sit down and write a song in that language, it's a completely different experience. So I was kind of able to, it was really fun because I was kind of able to channel my songwriting skills I have in English, but through the lens of German. And my mom helped a little bit here and there, which was cool because she's a German teacher, so that was really fun. But mostly I just kind of tried to keep it authentic to myself, and I think I did a pretty good job considering that was my first time in German. So that's fun. So because of that, the song, won't really mean much to a lot of people in terms of the lyrics because they're another language. But that being said, we do listen to a lot of other language songs sometimes. And it's interesting because in Germany, they listen to so many American songs all the time, all over the world. And it's only really in America that you'll only really hear American songs, so it's kind of cool because of that, because it's we actually do have a song in another language, and you're able to kind of listen to the song just for the melody and for the rhythm without really listening to the lyrics because you can't understand the lyrics. So it does kind of create a little bit of a separate experience from always understanding a song, which some people are obsessed with. But of course, even in English, we have a lot of songs we don't really even know the lyrics for. So, it does kind of fit the theme of my album too, because my album, 2 Seconds of Sanity, which is going to be coming up, it's a lot more based on the music than the lyrics, and there are some very interesting lyrics on some of the songs that are going to be on the record, but the lyrics are not as much in the foreground. So the Bestem Willen is the perfect example of just really completely separating the lyrics, because the lyrics are another language, so there's no way you're going to possibly understand the lyrics, and really just focusing on the chord progression and the music. And the song kind of has a very droney quality, kind of similar to See Your Face, my other song, which is in English, which is a 2-quarter. This song is a 3-quarter. I can only write so many chords because I only know so many chords, but that gives my music a very interesting kind of flavor because it does kind of have a very specific style, which is really cool. So part of the song was actually written on my trip to Germany, which is also another thing that made it special. So I actually started the song here, and then I went to Germany with my mom last August, and I wrote some of the song there. I really wanted to make sure that I did write some of my German song in Germany, to make it kind of feel as authentic as possible. So there are a couple lines, if you translate the lyrics, that actually do talk about experiences I had on my Germany trip. And again, these are all things that only Germans will understand, or if you run the song through Google Translate, God forbid, or whatever, you'll get. But that is in there. The song itself is just kind of about my life, and about elements of my life, and it's kind of me reflecting on my life. The chorus translates to So du willst mir helfen mit bestem Willen, du willst mein Freund sein mit bestem Willen. Basically, you want to help me, you want to be my friend with the best of intentions. With the best of intentions, that's kind of the idea. So it's kind of reflecting on times where I don't really give people the credit for wanting to help me, and I kind of just shut them out, which is something I've, dealt with in the past and just kind of reflected on. And then I use this like random experiences in my life to kind of echo that sentiment overall. So that's kind of what the song's about. But lyrically, it's fun because I sneak in a lot of references and stuff that I really only know, that a lot of people wouldn't even really know. And again, because it's in German, it just has this like automatic separation, which is really cool. Another thing I love about the references too is I reference one of my favorite German movies growing up, Das Doppelte Lottchen, which is essentially the German Parent Trap, written by Erich Kästner. It's based on a book by Erich Kästner. He's a major German writer. And it's basically just Parent Trap, that story, in a German setting. But it's really fun because I just reference some characters in there. So I do kind of, like, it is really, the entire song is really, not only because it's in German, but it's really also just very much ode to the German side of myself. Stylistically, it's also very much kind of inspired by Jupiter Jones, which is a German band that I really like. The singing, I kind of try to channel Nicolas Müller a little bit. He's the vocalist of Jupiter Jones. And it is very much kind of my recent, echoing some of my recent obsessions in my life. Which, this is really like, Message to the People, my first album, was kind of the first, I would say like the first 20 years of my life, kind of broken down into an album. 2 Seconds of Sanity is going to be kind of who I am now in the future, and is echoing a lot of that. So that's kind of how, that's how most records work with artists, but that's kind of how I'm thinking about these records. So the Bestem Willen very much echoes, is kind of me trying to put as much as I can of my German self into the song, which is really, really cool. Another reason it's kind of stylistically modeled after Jupiter Jones is because the way I sing the chorus is actually kind of syllabically modeled after Nicolas Müller. If you listen to some of his songs, they're a German-only band. They're kind of one of the only like bands that really writes only in German, which I always think is really special because they have so many songs in Germany by German bands, but they're all in English. So it's kind of hard sometimes to find bands that really only write in German. Jupiter Jones does that. They're really good. And it's, it's just like American pop music but in German. But the fact that it's in German is so special. So I really try to channel that. But syllabically, the way that I sing the word sein in the Bestem Willen is actually directly modeled after Nicolas Müller. The way that he sings any vowel, a lot of his vowels, especially the EI vowel in those German songs, will have that kind of idea. So I kind of create that in the Bestem Willen, trying to, basically that's the direct ode to Jupiter Jones there. So that's cool. Parts of the song are also modeled after Sido, who's a German rapper, and it's kind of funny because the rap part of the song is modeled after Sido, while the vocal part of the song is modeled after Jupiter Jones. So I kind of have these two very German forces kind of hidden in the song, and people who know those artists will kind of recognize their styles too. And it's funny, there's actually one of Sido's songs that I recently covered. I actually reference textually or lyrically in the first verse. So there's kind of all these little efforts to try to make the song as German as possible, in kind of a very authentic way, in a way that feels real still. But most of those efforts are going to go unnoticed, but I think people listening to the song will kind of feel that it feels authentic and won't even really necessarily know why, and I really like that. Okay, so now for the players. So the players on this track are pretty cool. It's actually only me and one other person, and then one singer I'll get to in a second. But in terms of the only other instrumentalist is my buddy Dan Frechette. He's a local singer-songwriter. He played on my song Moral Ground, which is on the extended version of Message to the People. But yeah, he did the guitar and the bass for this song. And it was really cool too, because actually it was kind of the first time that I was able to virtually record successfully with people. Moral Ground was a little more difficult because I didn't record that to a click track. And if you listen back to it, you can kind of hear that in the mix and stuff. And I did have Dan record that virtually and stuff, but it was a little harder because I didn't have a click track, so I kind of had to learn the hard way of how to deal with that. But with the Bestem Willen, I basically took what I learned from Moral Ground and I didn't make the same mistake twice. So I recorded it with a click. So the recording was really cool. It was really smooth for that reason. And again, it was kind of for that reason the first time that I was able to kind of, like, it was also kind of the first time that I really recorded with a click ever, because I never really do that, which I know, you know, people watching this video might laugh at that, but I really don't. So the Bestem Willen was kind of the first time I was able to do that, and then it actually worked, and I was able to send Dan the song. He wasn't even in the same room with me, and he did the guitar and bass, and just that process, which, you know, seems like kind of the way you'd think it would work, but for me that was kind of a first time, so that was kind of exciting. And, you know, so just doing it more, I guess, traditionally, because I hadn't really done that specific process before. But Dan is the guitar and the bass, so you have acoustic guitar and you have a bass track. That's Dan for set. He's a great singer-songwriter I work with. And then my mom. My mom actually sang on this, and that was kind of a decision that I wanted to do specifically, again, to, you know, really try to make the song as authentic as possible, with really leaning into the German side of myself as much as I could. And my mom is obviously kind of the center of that, because she is the only person I speak German to on a regular basis. She raised me speaking German. I wouldn't even know German or have anything to do with Germany if it weren't for her. So it was really important to have her on this. And she does a really kind of cool style of scatting, which no one else does. And when she was younger, she kind of had a career of making music herself and doing some scatting stuff in there, which is really cool. And when I was younger, I actually made some music videos for those songs. Unfortunately, none of those are out there anymore, but that was just something I did as a kid. But her stuff was really interesting with that type of scatting style. So I basically just kind of told her to channel her scatting style in the song. So because of that, it's kind of an ode to her too. And in a way, kind of through my song, I'm kind of dedicating or giving her past life a little bit of exposure that way, which is kind of cool. Just because he's doing a style of scouting that's very specific to her. So that just made the song even more authentic, just having her on it. But yeah, those are all the players on the song. Okay, so last but not least, the mix of this song. There's only really one kind of interesting tidbit to mention on this, and that is that this is probably like the mellowest sounding song that's going to be on this record. I kind of went into this record really wanting it to be like all heavy, you know, really thinking it was going to be all heavy. And this song, even the Bestem Willen, kind of started out as I really wanted heavy, distorted guitar and just that heavy feel, kind of a pop rock feel. But Dan is a folk artist, so if you give Dan a song, he's going to make it sound like folk. And you have to tell him if you want it electric. And I didn't do that. I just didn't think about it when I sent him the song, because my brain is so heavy the way I think, and I forgot that he doesn't think that way. So when I said I want a guitar and bass track, my brain was thinking, oh, he's gonna make it heavy, because I totally forgot who he was for a second when I sent him the song. So it ended up sounding, and then he sends it back, it sounds like folk. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, because it's Dan. So I had kind of like a, you know, SMH moment there. I mean, shaking my head, but so that was funny. But then I listened back to it and I thought, you know what, this actually sounds pretty cool. And I originally tried getting my friend Mike on it, who's going to be on a lot of this record. And he tried playing to Dan, it just didn't really work out. So, and then I realized, you know what, because like originally what I wanted was heavy guitar and then like guitar licks. So actually my first idea was, when I got it back, it sounded like folk. I thought, okay, I'm going to try to have some kind of electric guitar licks on it. So then I tried bringing Mike in to get that electric guitar feel. That didn't really match up with what I really visualized. I thought about asking Dan to record it again, but I had to think about kind of the finances and stuff. So then my brain just went to this, you know what, no, it's my German song, and my mom is the center of that for me. So that's basically what then made her end up being on the record. But that was not my original idea. So in a lot of ways, what's interesting about the song is that it's kind of the perfect example of how you start out with one idea, and then as the process goes on, you all of a sudden change things, and then it ends up very different from how you originally intended it, which for me doesn't happen that often. A lot of my songs, actually, I go into it and I really kind of have one direction they work and one direction, and then they usually sound pretty close to what I conceived, usually better, oftentimes. luckily, but the whole idea of like the idea really evolving and not at all ending up the way you intended it, for me with this song specifically and just in general, was kind of a newer thing. I hadn't really gotten that yet with a lot of my songs, but that's probably going to happen the more I do music in the future, because I think the more you do music, the more you kind of let go of this whole original idea you have, because you just don't know how things are going to happen. And at the end of the day, all you can really do is just kind of go with your gut and just kind of go where your gut takes you. But oftentimes that will lead you somewhere else. And honestly, that being said, I think the fact that I have made so many songs that really did end up exactly the way I imagined them originally, I think I'm very lucky for that. But that's also a very rare experience. I do realize that. So I think Bestem Willen may actually start a new era of kind of my ideas changing as I go on a lot more, which will be very interesting for me. And it's already happening with other songs. Kind of as I'm slowly compiling this record, I'm writing a lot right now, different pieces of different songs. One of the kind of main ideas I have going right now for a lot of these songs is I'm kind of, I have only a handful of songs I'm working on at the moment. Any writing idea I have, I try to match into one of the songs for the record. Because I have a lot of standalone things that I've done, a lot of poems, etc. And I'm not really into that as much anymore. I like to have a little more of controlled. So if I have an idea, I try to match it into a song. And I kind of do force myself to do that a little bit, only because I feel like it's more controlled that way. So that's how I'm writing. So I am kind of, because of that, some of these songs are actually, I'm thinking of a couple unnamed songs right now, that I'm not going to name right now, but a couple songs that are going to be on the record, where I actually am kind of noticing that, where there's some, because I'm kind of like, the songs themselves are ending up kind of being like a combination of these kind of random ideas that I have over a course of like a certain amount of time. And some of them are not necessarily related to each other, but they're all kind of bunched into the song. So it makes the song, because of that, automatically very dynamic. So the way that I'm writing for this is way less structured than I did for Message to the People. You know, Message to the People was, in a lot of ways, you know, I had the idea when I was 12. It was kind of an idea that existed for a certain time, like a certain long amount of time in my life, where I finally kind of all culminated in finally making the record. But it was an idea that I had since I was literally a child. Whereas 2 Seconds of Sanity, I'm kind of creating on the spot as I kind of enter this new era in my life. So the writing, the process is so different. So it's a lot more random and it's a lot more all over the place. The way that I'm working on this record, I have all these little ideas here and there and there, and just like everything's kind of all over the place, and I'm kind of slowly moving different things in different directions. That's not how Message to the People was. Message to the People was way more like, I worked on this song for this amount of time, then this song came along, then this song came along. A lot of those songs kind of evolved. Some of them existed since I was little, some of them didn't, some of them came a little later, but they were all kind of like, some of them, like, I kind of had the idea sitting for years before I was even able to record it. 2 Seconds of Sanity is a lot more jumbled, and it's kind of me moving into this new era in my life. So the process of that was really interesting, and I think, again, the fact that Bestem Willen kind of went on this automatic journey of just kind of the song ending up completely different from how I intended it, it was really fun. And it's actually very freeing that way, because it really lets me not be so obsessed with everything the way that I think when I was a kid I was a lot more obsessed when I worked. So Message to the People was very controlled, because it's just kind of, I had this song and this song, and now I'm kind of compiling. I'm just compiling a lot more, kind of as I've developed as a writer. I'm starting to compile, and my classes I'm starting to compile. So that process, because of that, was really special, and I think the record is going to be very interesting once it's done. But yeah, this is the first official single that's going to be on the record as well, and it's going to be track 2 on the record, and that's all I'll say right now. But it's also going to be definitely probably the most common song on the record. I'm not sure of that yet 100%, but I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I'm really proud of it, and I hope that maybe if you guys listen to the song, you can check out Jupiter Jones, the band that it's based off of, because they're really cool. I always try to turn more people onto German music. There's a lot of really good German language bands out there. There's a couple other ones I really like that I think I would definitely recommend to anybody watching. But yeah, without further ado, check out Bestem Willen, which is available on every platform now. and it's my first German single, if you don't count See Your Face, which See Your Face has German in it. But this is my first all-language, different language single. Thank you so much. Cheers.